Hello, I'm Skitty, and today I'm here to teach you how to export weapons from APB and probably learn how to use Blender. And the first thing you're going to need for this video is Blender. Now, there are actually two ways to get this, surprisingly enough. Way number one is straight from the website, which I don't care about your stupid products, Microsoft. Blender.org, obviously. And there you just click the big fancy download button. And I'm guessing it's supposed to auto-download, I don't know. The second method, which is news, is through Steam. And you just go to the store, type in, yeah, it'd be great if Blender, which is free, obviously, and in my library. So, yeah. You can download it from Steam, or you can download it from the website. And that looks pretty fun. Forget about that. Now then, from the previous video, you should already know how to boot up, you know, APB 3 Ninja Ripper. So I've already done that. So let's get in the game. And first things first, make sure you're running in windowed mode or windowed full screen. Let's go to financial union, which is empty. Enter doesn't work, and that is going to be a huge problem. This is embarrassing. None of these work. Oh my god. Note to self, don't ever do that again. Just pick an empty district, connect to it. Very casual-like. Hope your game does not crash in the process of doing so. Which it probably will, because it's APB. It's supposed to crash. That's a feature, not a bug. Serious, it's a feature. If your game is not crashing, you might want to contact support. Seriously. That's a bug. It's supposed to crash every 5 to 6 minutes. And since I didn't cover it in the last video, I will... Actually, yeah, that's what this is supposed to be. I'll show you how to rip and export weapons from APB, which is, well, pretty simple. Since this is actually pretty short in the whole process, I'm also going to cover how to use some Blender stuff. Let's see.
Welcome to downtown Central Station. Please step aside and let the passengers off the train first.
I have everything, so I guess it really doesn't matter.
Please step aside and let the passengers off
Let's
the
use
train
this stupid
first.
thing. Intex suck.
The next train will depart in 6 minutes.
That's weird. Let's go into this fancy corner. Very fancy indeed. I have mail too. Press your rip key, game will freeze. Before I actually get off, let me check that mail. So unimportant. Oh yeah, very unimportant. And now we can exit APB. If APB ever exits, that is. There we go. Next, I'm closing Ninja Ripper now. Go to Noises. Was the Intex stock, which I already have compiled somewhere. But I'll just go over how to export. I should really not touch this at all. Wait, what's today's date? It's 6/1. So I'm retarded. Oh, it's one of these ones. Whoopsie daisy. Here we go. Let's see. Weapons. Intech. Intech 5 stock. Yes. Actually, one thing we can do is look for the weapon model. Just like finding stuff in a haystack. Just gotta click on everything until you find it. It should be with the character meshes. There it is. There's our oh so fancy intake. And, well, it's displaying one of the RGB maps. So, let's see, open Explorer. Or, not that. Clicky here. Scroll way down. And just for the hell of it, I'm going to replace the one I have already. Remember, right click, export, flip those UVs, browse to where it is, and that is where weapons, and Tech 5 stock. What the hell is that? Oh. I guess that's... Yep, that's the right object. Sorry about that. New Windows 10 update. It's utterly terrible. Export complete. Now, done with that. I do have T-screens, so let's snap this. Well, actually, instead of doing that, weapons is already open, so new feature. Bamboozled. Oh yeah. Fancy new Windows 10 features. Gotta love them. Let all of these load, and as that's loading, let's do Steam Blender, which if you've downloaded it, you can access from your software library. Launch, and it takes forever to do so. And as you can see, my startup file is a little different from the default startup file. Let's see, is everything loaded? Mostly, possibly, maybe. Nice try, Windows. Nice try. Delete those. Delete those. And, here we go. We'll zoom in for your viewing pleasure. Let's start from the top here. Alright, now this first one is your first red, blue, green, or RGB color set. You can drag and drop that in here. And if we keep scrolling, assuming our eyes don't bleed out of our sockets because this is surprisingly bright. Should have already preloaded. There it is. Now then, this is the weapon normals. This is the diffuse. This is the RGB 2 color. Or is it? It's an interesting color question. Let's see. What the hell is that extra color piece there? Should have booted Photoshop before I started recording. Okay, yeah. No, it's not. Alright, so this one is not what you want at all. I think that's actually part of the Tommy gun. I don't know why that's there. Some weapons will tend to rip with this extra texture, which looks like that. And that is what the Intech stock looks like. Close that. So you want this one, not the other one. This is your RGB2. And this one is your fancy specular. And that's literally everything for a gun. Unless it's got a skin on it, which mine technically did. Then, as you can see, this extra texture is something that was supposed to be something on the gun. Probably the wood. We can close that. Let's see. Let's just start from scratch here. First things first, before we do anything, let's go over some Blender. I'll just reset everything. Factory settings, yes. Alright, my eyes hurt already. So, first things first, before you do anything, you want to go to File, User Preferences, and just really fiddle with stuff. I'll leave most of these set to the default, but I think it was this one, wasn't it? No. Auto perspective, yes, that's what it was. That will actually work. Well, I'll tell you about that later. Don't need to mess with any of those unless you really want to. Probably should have actually left add-ons alone. Let's see. What you'll probably need for Blender is the PSK in Unreal Skeleton Mesh. Renderware, Sketchfab, Wavefront. Oh yeah, don't forget those pipe menus. That's a hell of a lot of fun. God damn it, you guys. See what you made me do. Have to restart Blender all over again. Yeah, there's all kinds of different import-export tools for various formats and stuff. Before I continue, let me get screencast keys installed. Up. Desktop. This. There it is, 3D view, screencast keys. Then you just want to click Save Settings for that. And then my theme, I love to use the Elysian theme. It's very nice. Anything. File. Only thing, well, there's actually two things. You should tick auto run Python scripts. And I will say, if you download another blend file, and it has custom scripts in it, it may or may not crash your Blender dependent upon the script and its version and your Blender version. Another thing you might want to tick is show thumbnails. That makes things a lot easier. Let's see. Disruptive filtering on, VBOs on. No, compute device. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card, you can set this to CUDA, and since I have two, just set it to that. This only works in Blender cycles, which I'll get to in a moment. Oh, region overlap. That helps a lot. And yeah, that's my settings mostly. Alright, so let's see. This is Blender internal render, and at the very top you have this bar. Most of it is probably something you don't really need to look at except for this, where it says Blender render. Since I use Blender cycles, we will switch this to cycles render. If you do Blender internal, then there should be a video for Blender Internal coming soon, as in Gamers First soon, so like, you know, 20,000 years from now. That's first step. Second step is, by default, I like to have materials in view, so go down here to this little ball and set it to material. And because I have NVIDIA graphics cards, I can go all the way to the right over here and set device to GPU. And this will make rendering a lot faster than on CPU. See, blazing fast, and if we set it to CPU, it kind of takes a while. And it's not even rendering anything yet, maybe. Who knows? I'll set that back to... Oh yeah, pie menus. Really quick. Pie menus are quite fun in Blender. If you press the Z key, you get shading, which I don't actually use myself necessarily. One thing you can do is hold it and select, and it should auto format. If you're quick about it, it works better. Tab, you know, it gives you the mode, edit mode. Or before I do anything else, I should enable screencast. Alright, there you go. And then over here in the bottom left is the screencast keys. I will hide this because it's not really used. So you should be able to see what keys I'm using. Hopefully I might need to edit that. Let's see, tab again. Go back to this mode. One thing you can do is use Control Tab to go straight into weight painting mode. And kind of think that's it really, or not that. Window deactivate, fancy. Shift Tab does nothing, or the magnet button thingy down there. Alright, so if you're a noob to this, you should probably stick to using presets. So if you go over here on the right, you have all these fancy, confusing as hell things. For a beginner, there's really only a couple things you need to touch. First thing is the dimensions. It's set to half of 1080p. And then you can just snap this to any of the display dimensions. Just snap it to 1080p. And that will actually alter the camera angle. Output is pretty simple. I would suggest leaving that at default settings. You can change the output to a bunch of things. Movies should only be saved for animations, which is something you may or may not be too noob to do. Color depth should stay the same. Compression, you can probably screw around with that if you would like. Oh, and if you do change one of these settings, like this slider for example, you can just, I'm using left click to move this, you can just right click and it snaps to its previous setting. Sampling, I'd stick with presets, but do not touch that until you've done what you needed to do. And everything, it has final and preview. I usually use the final setting when I'm about to finish something, but do not touch it until you're almost done with what it is that you're working on. Volume sampling can be left alone. Light paths is one of those fun parts that you can screw around with. This changes how light works, basically. Again, leave this at default until you're probably done with what you're working on. That's really it. It's the basic and everything, the basic render sets. I would hope that you have a really decent computer, otherwise it's going to take forever to render something. Let's see, let's go through some of these little tabs over here since this is selected. These are your render layer, your scene tab. Your render layers don't need to touch any of this. at all. This is your scene settings, your actual scene settings. Don't need to touch any of that either for a noob. These are your world settings. You don't necessarily, well, actually you do need to touch these. Let's go to rendered mode. And let's see, I'll enable use nodes. And if you click on this gray box where color is, we can change the color of our background. That's a really fucking bright light. You can make it whatever color you desire. Let's give people a seizure. Yes. Oh my god, I'm feeling nauseous already. This is the strength. Everything, can turn it off. Can make it really bright. Oh god, it ate our box. And anything. And I'm sorry if I burnt your eyes. My eyes burned too. Ambient occlusion would only ever be needed for a dark scene. Maybe. Ray visibility, don't need to touch that. Settings. You may want to tick multiple importance. I would only ever tick that if your render comes out really, really, spritey. I guess, let me get a better example. Actually, I could have used that other thing. Let's see, rendered. Like, you see how it's got all these little specs and everything. It's multiple important sample. Can help with that, but only ever use it if your final render comes out looking kind of pixely with its shading and everything. Wow, my eyes still burn. Send that back to material for now. Otherwise, you don't need to touch that at all. These are your object settings. Allows you to basically screw around with it. Don't actually need to touch anything in here at all whatsoever. Normally. These are constraints. Don't need to touch this at all. I've never had to anyways. Modifiers, I'll get into that a little later. What the hell are these? Object data. Now, by default, I don't know what happened there. By default, when you import a new object, which actually, let's do that now. You can just make sure you right-click on the cube, and then you can just hit delete. And you go to File, Import, wavefront.obj. Go to wherever your weapon is stored. I have all my stuff bookmarked for easy access. Intech stock. And import the Intech 5 stock obj. Now, all models will import on their side and unmirrored, or mirrored, whatever. What you need to do is select the object, which you can do either from here, or if you're importing a vehicle or a character, you can select things over here by left-clicking them. And don't forget, I do have screencast keys enabled, so you might want to keep an eye over here in case I missed something. Alright, so select the weapon, and then what you want to do is hit Alt-R to clear the rotation. You can also use Alt-G to clear your translation, or transformation, and Alt-S to clear scaling. And Alt-S also clears mirroring, so if you do hit Alt-S, you're going to have to remirror the whole object, maybe. Yeah, and then what you need to do is go to Object, and Mirror, X Global. And just click, left click, and that'll finalize. Now our weapon is properly mirrored, but as you can see, it looks really weird. And that is because, as I said earlier, in the object data tab, all new imported objects will appear with smoothing on, which smoothing is accessed over here in this little menu. If we go down, we have smoothing, set it to flat, and it really breaks things. And smooth. Um, Once you import your object, you need to go, the first thing you really need to do is go to the object data tab, which is this little 3-point triangle, and untick auto smooth. And that fixes that. Don't know why that's enabled by default, just is, gotta deal with it. Yeah, that's that and everything, and then the smooth and flat shading will properly work. Now, after that is the materials. Now, for Blender Cycles, Lilac Toaster on the forums has a material group, and she's currently working on a new one, so once that new one comes out, I'll link that in the description of the video. But because that's not out yet, I'll link the current one that's in her forum signature. Gotta do is go down to append, and let's see, I have materials, which is where Lilac's thing is. Triggered 6.5. Now, once you get to the blend file, which will look like this, you need to click on it and go into the material folder. And as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different materials for different things. Now, for a basic weapon, you only need weapon material, which I guess I'll cover now. Select your object. In the material tab, you need to, let's see, switch out the materials, which you can do by this little ball palette here. And then that gives us our derpy looking weapon. Looks cool. This is exactly how Gamers First does their things. Not really. Now this bottom window is a timeline, and you can just drag that up by clicking on here and just dragging it up. Now, over here, down in the way left corner, bottom, we need to switch this to the node editor. And as you can see, looks pretty fucking rad. Not really. And why is that even there? What is that for? Okay. This is for basic weapons. At least I'd hope, considering it looks a little different. Let's see, this is the diffuse. So, Intech 5 stock. Let's see, there's the diffuse. And just go through. It already has textures loaded into it, and these textures are properly named, so you know what texture goes where. Let's see, dog ear normal. So we go find our normal, which is blue. Then this is the specular, which is going to be this gray one here. Then dog ear layer 1. This is RGB one, which will look like this. Do it again. Now, as you can see, there's white, these like white boxes. Now, these white boxes, these white areas rather, in Blender are actually transparency, and Lilac has transparency set to white, which is perfectly fine. So in material view, they'll appear as white boxes, but if we render it out now, oh yeah, I forgot all about that. Once you apply the texture, I guess, and get everything textured, you need to go to Object, Apply, Rotation and Scale, and now we can view it rendered. And as you can see, the white boxing is gone, and it appears just like it does on the game, because, you know, this is really good quality stuff. Now this is layer 2. So we go find RGB2, which looks like this. So both of these. Lilac must have redid her thing. Now this last one, this would be for custom weapon textures, as you probably saw a few seconds ago. It had the Otome Neko weapon decal on it. You can put any image you want in the world on that, and let's do Ube. And as you can see, it will just pop onto the gun. Any texture you want in the world, so long as it you know, stuff. Over here, let's get that texture back, actually. Use cute little skittles. Now this is the mapping node. This allows you to alter the texture. You shouldn't need most of the Z numbers, only the XY ones. That's your location. This is rotation. Well, rotation Z works. Location Z doesn't do anything. Scale. I think it's all pretty self-explanatory. Just gotta play around with it. Scale Z does nothing. Only rotation Z does stuff. But since we don't need that, we can just... Actually, we can leave that there and completely unplug this node just by dragging it off. Now then, let's see. What color should we make this? Let's make it something really, really, really stupid. You can just play around with these RGBs here just by clicking on them. And let's see, let's start with white. And go with something from there. Each of these RGB pieces alters a part of the gun, as you can see. There's different ones mapped to different places. Make all of these white and fancy. And we now have a white gun that is really white. Oh, so very white. Scratches. Okay, that probably shouldn't do that. Let's see, what does it look like? Let's actually give it some decent color. So we can see it against our oh so cool white background. It's 048. Let me go through and adjust all of these. And it does support HSV values and hex numbers. So if you feel like using any of those, go for it. Get the feeling, what even is that? Okay, that's nothing of importance, I guess. Weird. Yep, nothing important. 48. Go 49. For the final number, 45, whatever. Alright, now, as you can see, gun does have some, well, it's supposed to be scratches, although, well, who the hell knows what they're thinking. I can turn this off by turning this down, and that's snapped into a negative value. Well, this one actually looks a little more sophisticated, since it apparently supports metallic settings. Let's see. Where's the lamp? Where'd the lamp go? Oh, it's in the stock of the gun. Let's move it over here. You can move objects by just dragging a little colored arrows around, and that moves it along a certain axis. Down here are your transformation tools, the ones you'll probably use the most, maybe, if you don't use the keyboard already. This one changes it to rotation. These are the only two you ever need. Everything changes it to rotation, which, let's see, since the lamp is a selected object, we can set it to sun. That way it works better. And we can angle our sun. over here in the lamps category, there is a point lamp, a sun lamp, which is obviously self-explanatory, a spot lamp, again, self-explanatory. Hemispherical lamps do not work in Blender cycles, so forget about them. And area lamps, which are pretty much, if you, well, doesn't actually say anything. Pretty much, this area lamp is just basically 180 degrees of lighting. So, stuff. Let's see, snap it back to sun. Rendered. That gloss looks really weird. Turn us down. We now have a really cool looking gun. Indubitably. Let's see. Turn up the scratches a little bit. That should turn up the specular as well, unless Lilac was smarter than me. Lilac's a very smart person. Really smart. Too smart for someone of her degree. Really smart. Just don't let her cuteness fool you. She's very evil. Yeah, that's the whole... That's that. What else? Oh, yeah. Let's see. This is transformation orientation. You really only ever need global and local. Local, basically if I rotate the object like this, local will automatically snap to that object specific or rotation or orientation, basically. So I can rotate it like this. It'll always stay with the object itself's orientation. Let's see, Alt-R. And it works with the transformation tools too. G-R. You can also use this to select different modes. There's only, for a beginner, you'd probably only need, well, for weapons, you only ever need like 3 of the modes. Let's see. Oh yeah. Well, actually, before I do that, let's get the other weapon material group. Now, this one is supposed to be more flexible, I think, according to Lilac. I'll go ahead and get this set up right quick. Again, all of them are placed right properly. And I'm probably going really fast so you can't see what I'm doing because I've been doing this for actually a long time. Not that long, but long enough to do this annoyingly fast, and I'm already fucked up. Alright, leave that as it is. This is basically the same thing as the last one, only it's a lot more customizable. A lot more. It's pretty much the same thing. Scratches are controlled over here, all the way near the ends of the node tree. This little node. You are probably going to be doing node work a lot when you start this. So, yeah, a lot more flexible, more doable. I love using this one. My personal fave. I'll probably start using the other one though. It looked a lot simpler. Let's see. Well, auto smoothing for older Blender versions was something I used to use, but since they broke it somehow, can't use it. Out of the question. What else? Oh yes. Normally when you import a model, well, for a character anyways, when you after you imported the model, you join the face and other fancy stuff, and you go into edit mode. You can press the A key, as you can see, to select everything. And then what you do is you hit remove doubles. And now for removing doubles, normally for a weapon or a vehicle, you wouldn't remove doubles. And that's because it breaks the shading. But since I do a lot of editing on my stuff, I kind of have to use remove doubles to actually edit things. And basically, as you can see, number pad plus. Again, keep an eye on this because sometimes I'll skip things. As you can see, you can take the weapon apart. This is the Intex magazine, which has a fancy bullet in the top of it. RTW. Magazine does look a little weird though. You know, so you can just take parts of the gun off, you know. Just take parts of the gun off. All sorts of fancy things. You can even customize the gun. You can even merge weapons if you would like. Let's see. I know I have a fancy little gun here. FFA, SMG. That opened up 2 windows, and the other one's unmarked. Okay. As you can see, I've merged a Star 556 and a PW57 to an FFA Bull Shark, or not a Bull Shark, it's the regular FFA R&D3. And I know Bridget, yes. I know Bridget has a weapon pack that has everything in it. You can probably download that. Should be set up for Blender Internal already. But as you can see, you can merge all sorts of fancy things and Windows 10. You can merge all sorts of fancy things, make some fancy smanchy guns, and you know, I don't know how to do things. Now, because there is no way to counter the fact that the fact that that is a huge distraction. The fact that Blender screws with the shading when you remove doubles. We go over to this little wrench icon, and where it says add modifier, we click add modifier, generate edge split. Now, I would suggest you do this after you finish editing your model in any way. And this will fix the edges. Make sure. Okay, that's weird. Let's see. Need to adjust this upwards a little bit. Maybe just fine tune it a little bit until it looks just about right to you. There we go. And after that, just hit apply. Done. Basically, edge split splits the edges. It pretty much undoes what remove doubles does. So, you know, all sorts of fancy stuff. As you can see, it doesn't select the entire gun piece, it just selects the bottom. That's what edge split does. That's one of... Well, I'll get into other modifiers, I guess, later. Probably get into more detail on this later, but this is just some simple basics on getting a weapon imported into Blender and using it and things. Yeah, this is the other weapon tree setup. If you're a noob, you should probably use the other one, just the weapon material one. That way, it's pretty basic, simple, straightforward. If you're feeling hardcore, you can use the non-group material because you're hardcore and you're cool, and maybe I'll give you attention because apparently everybody wants my attention. I don't know why. Let's see what else. Some of these buttons are pretty self-explanatory. All you really got to do is just click buttons. That's how you learn Blender. That's how you learn anything. It's like driving a car. Just do things. Just don't get yourself killed when driving a car. It's not that easy. But yeah, you can't possibly fuck something up in this because all you have to do is hit Control-Z and then I'm done. If only life had a Control-Z, it would be so much easier. The rest of these you don't really ever need. You can Google most of what these buttons do. Honestly, actually, I don't know anything about it. Before I let you go, well, actually, I've already let you go because I've never holding you in the first place. See, actually, this is already here. Noob to Pro and Wikibooks. You can see Project Spartan is quite nice, or it's not. It's Edge, whatever. Um, yeah, just go to Google and Google or Bing, whatever your stupid search engine is, and just look up Blender Noob to Pro. I would heavily suggest you actually read, uh, yeah, I would suggest you read the first unit. And I mean actually read it. Don't skim through it. I mean actually read it like a regular human being. And yes, the NVIDIA overlay does do that weird, stupid thing with these stupid numbers. But yeah, just read the first, unit. That's all I want you to do. And I think you can read the rest of it. Honestly, I will give you bonus points, a lot of them, for every unit we read. I will be proud of you, and you will get a hug from me. I promise. Not really. I hate hugs. You can go down a fire. But no, seriously, read all this, and you will get something special. Not really. But yeah, read Unit 1 at the very, very, very least. Reast, yes, we are Japanese now. Read it at the very least, please. I beg of you. There's not a single thing in the world you can do worse than not read this and get into Blender. I will kill you 1,000 times if you do not read Unit 1 of this book. Please. I beg of you. Think of the children. Make the children happy. Or, if you're more into killing children, go for it. Because if you read this book, what you want to happen will happen. If you don't, it won't happen and you won't be happy. And I won't be happy because you're not happy. I'm happy because you're happy. Alright? I believe in you. You're a decent human being. Read this book, and please do not ask questions unless you actually look up those questions yourself. Alright? Google's your friend. Don't know how to do something? Google it. Well, don't be afraid to ask questions. This only applies to Blender. If you use 3ds Max, Maya, any other retarded 3D modeling software program that isn't Blender, because Blender Master Race, you're kind of on your own there. The whole process is the same. It's just how to go about doing it. It's like, you know what to do, you just don't know how to do it. So, yeah, I should actually save this. Yeah, whatever. I'll save this. This Insect 5 stock. Before this video ends, let's see what that custom edition is, because that is old. Stock custom edition. This is probably something stupid I was working on way back in the day. Yes, it is. 40 bucks says it doesn't even work. Nope. Untextured stuff in Blender will show up as this purplish pinkish color. So if you're missing textures, you know why. Obviously, it's because you're missing textures. If your stuff shows up this color, you're missing textures. Simple as that. That stock does not actually have a texture on it, which is why it shows up that particular color. But yeah, if you're missing textures, it'll show up like that. But that is some ugly ass end tech design. Old work, please. That's a new sound. But yeah, pretty straightforward. I hope I did this right. Do not add strangers on Steam, especially this one. This one stalks you like a motherfucker. Don't add Sadira, don't add Temperate. Those are two very big stalkers. Don't add anybody that I know, please. They are all stalkers and they will eat you. Good day.